Yo, let's go ahead and figure out how to find the slope between 2 points. So, if I'm given 2 points, so let's start with an example. Let's say we have -9, 0 and -19, 5. So, what I'm trying to figure out here is what is the distance between these two y values over the distance between these two x values. In other words, we're trying to figure out m is equal to the change in y over the change in x, and we can rewrite this as something like y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This right here will help us find the slope between these 2 points. So we know that this is 0.1 and this is 0.2. And then we can see that we have two x values. What I'm going to do is I'm going to differentiate these x values and we're going to differentiate these y values over here. How am I going to do that? Well, since these are both x values, I'm going to put a subnotation like that to indicate that this is my first x value, and over here this can be my second x value. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. See that we're dealing with y values over here? I'm going to go ahead and put a y and a y over here, and since this is x1, since this is 0.1, I'm going to label this y1, and since this is 0.2 and this is x2, gotta make sure that I put a 2 for that particular y value. So you can see what I'm doing right here. My formula, or my slope formula, y2 minus y1, here are the values. All I gotta do is just plug it in, plug and chug, they say. So let's do it. So I see that I have a y2 over here. Which of the following is y2? Well, it's 5, so I'm gonna write 5 minus, yes, be consistent. See, we have a y2 minus. I gotta make sure that my y2 is here and the minus sign goes right after that. And then I put a y1. My y1 in this case is 0, so I write 0. So now that I handle the stuff on top, I'm going to now do the stuff on the bottom. So x2 in this case is -19. So I put -19 over here. And then remember, minus sign has to go right after the x2. So lastly, I have an x1. So please take a look at the formatting of the formula. x2 minus x1, x2 minus my x1 is -9. I should not put a 9 there. That is wrong. I have to make sure I put a -9 there. Put those parentheses, -9, and then there you go. This works out perfectly. This is how I'm supposed to write, or this is how I'm supposed to plug it in, or plug them in. So 5 minus 0, I'm going to make sure that I simplify the top and the bottom. 5 minus 0, which is 5, and then I have a -19 minus this negative number. Negative times a negative is a positive, so this is going to change to a plus sign just like so. So we have -19 plus 9, so that's just going to be -10. So I write -10 over here. And then I'm not done, because this is not simplified enough. Or, I'm sorry, this is not simplified. So what I got to do is I need to figure out a number that goes into 5 and 10 and then divide with that number. So I see that, hey, 5 goes into 5 and 5 goes into -10. So I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 5. So I write divide by 5. Divide by 5, and then I'm like, okay, 5 divided by 5, that's just 1. And then -10 divided by 5, that's just going to be -2. So I'm just go ahead and put my negative sign right there in the middle, and then put a 2 on the bottom. So then I'm good. I'm happy. This is my answer. So my slope in this case is m is equal to -1 over 2. Okay? All right. Let's do another one. We have -4 comma -1 and -4 comma 10. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that formula again. Our slope formula is m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then let's go ahead and start labeling this. This is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. Be consistent. And then once I'm done labeling, I'm going to go ahead and just plug it in. So my y2 in this case is 10, so I write 10. And then make sure to have that minus sign right after. And my y1 in this case is -1. So I put the parentheses -1 all over my x2, which is -4. Minus sign right after. And then x1. x1 is -4. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start adding top and bottom. 10 minus -1. A negative times a negative is a positive. So that's just going to turn into a plus sign. So 10 plus 1 should be 11. And then all over, well, let's see, what's in the bottom? -4 minus -4. We know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So we have -4 plus 4, which is just 0. And since I have a 0 in the denominator, if I have a 0 in the denominator, this means we have an undefined slope. We don't have a 0 slope, we have an undefined slope, or you can say that it has no slope. Okay, so this over here, you need to make sure that you are clear. This indicates that we have an undefined or no slope. Okay, and no slope, if you draw a graph, it looks like this. It is a vertical line, top and bottom. This is what you call a no slope. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. Oh, what's this? All right, let's do it over here. So we have -9, 10 and -11, 20. I'm going to write my formula. M is equal to y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And this is x1, y1, x2, and on y2. Plugging it in, I get 20 minus 10 all over -11 minus -9. And 20 minus 10 is just 10 divided by, we have a sorry, I forgot to put a minus sign there. So we have a negative times a negative, which is going to be a positive. So -11 plus 9, that's just going to be -2. 10 divided by -2 is just -5. Your slope in this case is m is equal to -5. Okay? That was pretty easy. Let's just do one more problem. We have -16, -18, and -1, -18. This is going to be x1, y1, and then x2, y2. And your formula, again, is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Start plugging them in. -18 minus -18 all over -1 minus -16. -18 minus -18, negative times a negative is a positive, so that's just going to be what? -18 plus 18 is 0. And then -1 minus -16, negative times a negative is a positive. That should be 0 over 15. Okay. So now we have a 0 in the numerator in this case. And if 0 is in the numerator, that means that it is what we call zero slope. Okay, remember, there's a difference between zero slope and undefined slope. Zero slope is we actually have a slope, and it's a slope of 0, just like m is equal to -5. So in this case, I write m is equal to 0. And over here we have no slope, which means there's the slope of this thing is non-existent, essentially. So what does that look like if we draw a graph? Well, our slope for this particular problem would be something like this. Right? If we were trying to rise over run this particular line over here, right? Rise over run is the same thing as saying the change in y over the change in x, just like this over here. If we were trying to rise, well, how many times can I rise over here in this case? Well, 0. You can't rise above 0, basically. So that's it for the notes, or that's it for this lesson today. This is how to find the slope between 2 points. Hopefully you understand, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. So I guess we can say toodaloo. Bye-bye.